Well, I want to welcome all of you who are logging into our webinar here today. We are having just a little bit of technical difficulty with one of our panelists, and so we will be getting him in as he logs in. This webinar is one of a series that we started in just this past year called Waypoint 55, where Waypoint is having monthly ministry-related webinars in 55 minutes. And so we're glad you're a part of this one for youth leaders. Well, whether you're full-time or part-time or even a volunteer staff at a church, we hope in this session to talk about the events that you can schedule for your youth coming up in this next year, but particularly those ones that have an impact on your kids' faith development. There's a lot of fun events that you can do, but how can you turn them into ones that have a deeper meaning for the kids in their faith journey? Or how can you choose events that have the ones that are a deeper meaning for your kids? And so we have with us two panelists that are veterans in Florida, good churches, and it looks like we're getting our second one there. He's coming in through his phone. I'm assuming that some of you are snowed in today. I know the three of us probably have no snow, but know that half of our region may be snowed in, so we're glad that you're joining us today. I do want to give props to our ministry sponsor that sponsors our webinar series. Mid-Atlantic Christian University in Elizabeth City is closed for the day. From what I heard, they got a foot plus and it's still snowing. So I don't know who's joining us from Elizabeth City, but we're glad they sponsored us for this last year, and they're going to be sponsoring this webinar series for the coming year as well, so that we can help churches and leaders in the churches navigate ministry together. So we're glad for them to work with us today. So our two panelists I want to introduce to you that are on the screen here with you. One is Zach Woods at Bridge Christian Church, and the other is Brandon Craig that is at Belmont Christian Church. I'm going to let them just in just a second, let them introduce themselves, tell you just in a minute or two their story about getting to their church, what the church was like when they got there, and where it is now, both good churches in our region. But I want to give you just a couple things about this webinar. If you haven't joined one of our webinars before, there's a couple of things that I'd like you to know. We are going to be able to, there's a couple buttons at the bottom of your interface there that you'll be able to use. One is the Q&A button, where as any of us are talking, if that sparks a question for you, type it in right there. Hit the Q&A, type in your question. It'll go in a queue, so you don't have to remember later. At the end of the session, we'll be able to answer those questions in the queue. We have a kind of a screen here on our webinar where we can do that. And if we don't have time to answer all your questions, then we will get a report. We'll be able to answer your questions after the fact via email. The other one on here, or at least for me, is a polling question. We've got 2-3 polls, just real simple polls from you. And so one of the ones that we do for that every time is just to ask what our attendance is, because we realize for many of our webinars, maybe not this one in particular, but many of our webinars, we have multiple people on one computer. We've had a couple of elder training webinars, and we'll have as many as 10 or 15 guys, around the preacher's computer at the church. But for this one, we don't know what that would be, but would love to know how many people are joining us from your computer today. All right, so Zach, if you'd start off and tell us just your story very briefly about how you got to Bridge and what your ministry there looks like.
Absolutely. Well, it's not a brief story, but I'll save you the details. I've been at Bridge for about 5 years, and actually a little over 5 years. My wife and I moved to Virginia from right outside of St. Louis, where we served at a church. We were not on staff. I actually came from the banking industry, where I managed banks, and so I did a complete career move. I moved to a beautiful part of the country, and I love it, and the church has been good. Bridge is a growing church, and our youth ministry is a growing youth ministry where I hope that I'll be able to get into a groove and move right along. Every year has had its changes in a good way. Been some difficult, some big changes, but still growing.
So you've been at Bridge how long?
A little over 5 years.
5 years. And
yes.
During that time, Bridge has grown from what to what?
Oh, gosh. Average Sunday attendance is almost double, from right around 500 to almost 1,000.
Okay. So you've had to keep up with the growing youth ministry as a result.
Yes.
Brandon, why don't you tell us your story there at Belmont? First of while Bridge is in Fishersville, Virginia, which is near Waynesboro and Stanton in the Shenandoah Valley. And Brandon, tell us where you're at and your story from there.
Yeah, mine would be the non-glamorous, very traditional youth ministry story. I grew up at Pasture Christian Church, actually the name of it, down in Martinsville, Virginia. Some of you might be familiar with that. Went to Mid-Atlantic Christian University from 93 to 97 and graduated from there and took the job here at Vermont starting in June of 97 and have been here ever since. Came in as the youth minister and am still the youth minister today.
All right. Well, we're glad that these two guys are experts in the field for us, our veterans. And our goal today is not, I don't think that we're going to provide just like maybe these eureka moments of something, we're going to present some ideas. And I'm guessing that probably 80% of it or more you've heard of as our participants. We've got probably 50 people on the line here today. And I'm guessing that because everybody on the line is in youth ministry one way or another, that you've heard some of these ideas, but our goal is a couple of things, but one, that you would hear a couple of ideas from these guys that you haven't heard before or you've heard it, and they can flesh that out a little bit for you. And particularly if you were to ask a question after the fact, or you'll get an automated email tomorrow with some links on it, and one will be some links that include, or will be their email address. And so if there's any of the events that they described today that you want some more information about, they might be able to tell you about that via email or connecting them with them via email, and then you can have a conversation with them over the phone. And so that's our goal, is that we provide you some opportunities for a few fresh ideas or some old ideas that you knew of a long time ago, but that would really work for you where you're at your church right now, but particularly those ideas that really help with the faith journey, the faith development of the kids in your program. And so we're going to follow a really simple outline today. Let me see here if I can click on this right here, and oh shucks, share screen. Here's our real simple outline, is the trips that are out of town. We're going to talk about some of those. I think if you've been in youth ministry, that those are your big things that your kids look forward to, and that they have a big impact on your kids, whether it's a couple of days or a whole week kind of trip. Then we're going to talk about stuff that you might do locally at your own church or in town, and then some other kind of miscellaneous bonus ideas from them. In my perspective, I am not a youth minister. I used to be a long time ago. And but my role at Waypoint allows me to see churches, particularly new churches, but churches all over the region and what they're doing, including their youth programs. And so one example of that would be, I would have this image I took at a church, on a wall at a church in our region, where they're having a Nerf night coming up in about 10 days next weekend. And it's grades 6 through 12. And Nerf guns. It's interesting that you can bring your own guns, but they provide the bullets. And so that sounds like a fun night to me. But for me, the trick for that would be, how can you use that to really make an impact on the kids' faith development? For me personally, when I was in youth group eons ago, I was in a great youth group that sent a lot of kids into ministry in particular, and they would use all the events, whether they were overtly spiritual or not, as leadership development, where one of the kids, usually high schoolers, juniors and seniors, had to do devotions for the whole group. And it was kind of that first shot of speaking spiritually in front of a group. And I remember my first devotion for that one. So for this one, for Nerf night, I don't know what the devotion would be. I would think it would be, if I were going to do it, it'd be from Ephesians 6, the armor of God, and how you can put out all the fiery darts of the evil one, or something like that. I don't know what I'd come up with. Or all the bloody battles in the Old Testament that you could recount how many people died and had their arms severed or something. I don't know what you do, but having the kids having to give devotions to their peers is a huge faith development step, and you can do that with any of the ideas. But the ones that we want to talk about here, we've got both Zach and Brandon with great ideas in these particular areas. So I want to start with these out of town, the big trips that you might take out of town, and you may not be aware of some of the ones that they do that are really working for them and their ministry. And so why don't we start off with mission trips, number one. All the trips don't have to be mission trips, but I know both of these guys take their teams on mission trips. And so we could start off, Brandon, if you would start off with what you've been doing in Mexico. I know both of my adult daughters went to Mexico, to Ensenada, And so it's a great trip. I know how great it is. If you describe that briefly for us and how it works for your team.
Yeah, for sure. Like in 2003 was the first time I visited the missions organization that we currently partner with. It's called YUGO Ministries, just like the old YUG. That stands for Youth Unlimited Gospel Outreach. They're based, I believe, in Southern California, but we serve alongside their Ensenada missions base. And we've been going there really since 2003. And I cannot say enough good things about YUGO and what they do. We go there in the summer, and in 4 to 5 days, a group of 10 to 12 teenagers can build a house for a family. You're not doing house repairs. You're starting from the ground and building a 16 by 20 foot house. And your teenagers they'll put up every wall, every shingle on the roof. They'll install every window. The only door on the house is hung by them. They'll do every single thing except for pour the concrete foundation, which is there when we get there. It's run by a great staff. They have morning and evening chapel. They provide all of the meals. They provide all the worship experiences. And let's see, it's about 2 hours south of San Diego is where Ensenada is, if you're familiar with that. So it's not logistically tough to get to travel-wise. There's not a lot of travel fatigue. You can fly to San Diego direct from most major cities. We fly from Charlotte and then rent a van for every group of 10 to 12 teenagers and drive down there. It takes about 2 hours to do that. And then so we're gone from like Saturday to Saturday. And while we're there, our teenagers will grow closer together. They grow close with the families we're serving. They grow close with the organization we're partnering with. And it's just been a great experience. For the first few years, we went every summer. And then starting in 2007, I think we started going every other summer. So now we just go there on odd summers. So we won't go back there this year. The camp itself holds about 200 people. So your group would be there as a total of about 200 people. So it's not a huge place with 1,000 people, but it's also not something so small that you feel like it's kind of dinky and there's only 40 or 50 people there. To me, it's just the right size.
Okay. Well, I know I've seen the pictures of the day when the team hands the keys to the family for their own house. And man, what a moving moment. From what I understand, the family works alongside the team to help build their own house. And they're part of a church.
9 times out of 10, the family is present and working. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're part of the local church there as well, and as a filter, and so it just seems like a great thing. So if your team hasn't done that, there's other organizations that do that as well besides YUGO, but there's a lot of churches in our region that have been part of the one with YUGO in Ensenada, and so if you want information about that or other ones, you can ping us either now or after the fact. Zach, I know that you've taken trips with your Bridge team to Puerto Rico. And if you could describe that briefly for us, but particularly I'm impressed by the preparation and the training that the kids get before they leave, and how much of a faith development, leadership development that is, as much as the actual trip that they have when they go to Puerto Rico.
Yes, Puerto Rico is a little bit different than what we just talked about, but that was kind of our goal going in, was to find something. Our church has mission points, and I grabbed a couple people and we started praying about, what could be a mission point for our youth ministry? What would that look like? What would we be able to do? Before I started here, the youth typically went on a trip about every 3 years, and the year that I started was supposed to be a year that they attended. So I let a lot of kids down by not jumping right back into a mission trip, particularly because I'd never been on one. So I wanted something that we could make comfortable, something that we could get kids involved with. With the growth of our youth group, we were looking for something we could potentially do every year, but not just the same trip, but actually be involved with building relationship between students here in the state and the students in Puerto Rico. So we partnered with Toa Baja Christian Church in right outside of San Juan in Puerto Rico. And it's been a great experience. As Tim alluded to, we have an application process. Their church is a smaller church, so we're not able to take as many students as we want. So it allows us to have good conversations with students through a application process where they submit the application, our team reviews it, and we have, to this point, we have not had to turn anybody down because we've only received enough applications to take students. This year, that will be much different. In the past, we have provided a kids camp for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, which our team has prepared from scratch, the planning and all those details. We also do team building and missions training in general. Our goal is that when our students leave our ministry, move on to where they're serving in a church, that they will understand what missions is, what the purpose of missions is, and how to do that, and they could serve on a team at their local church.
All right. Well, and I have seen, I'm going to unmute Brandon here when he's typing.
I was answering someone's question.
I saw that, which I wanted to say thanks for, we got a question already and Brandon was answering it. And so if you've got questions, you can hit the Q&A button at the bottom. I do want to launch another poll. I forgot to do it earlier. Right now, let me go to the second poll here, end that one, and go to poll number 2. And we're just curious, what is your position at your church, whether you're full-time youth staff, part-time, volunteer, or you're some other role at your church. We're really curious to know who we've got online with us today. We've got a great representation today with probably more than 50 people on the line, so we're glad for that. But the preparation that the kids at Bridge I've seen personally doing to prepare that youth camp is months and months, preparing for the lessons, the youth band. I know they've practiced the lessons with the 4th and 5th graders at the local church before they did it there. And at the end of the day, when you look back at it a couple of years later, the whole process was really the trip, not just the week they were in Puerto Rico.
That's what it was for us. It was we don't count it as a short-term mission trip because of the preparation. We start in the years past, we would have already started meeting with our team, meeting with our students. This year will look much different because of the hurricanes. We will not be doing a kids camp because the kids camp had lots of damage. But we will go back this summer and do some type of cleanup, restoration help with them this summer. So it'll look a little bit different, but same thing. Our goal is that we will not only develop student leaders on our side, but in teaming with them, help them bring up leaders in their church. So it's not just it's turned into more than just a student ministry mission point. We've sent adult groups to Puerto Rico, and we've done leadership training for their adults. So it's been a good experience for me and our team.
All right. Well, there's certainly some other trips that you could do. These are the ones that these two guys have been a part of. I'd tell you that one thing that one of the church plants that I'm that's part of Waypoint that I've seen is that they do more of an international trip, whether it's Ensenada or somewhere else for their high schoolers, but they do a domestic mission trip for their middle schoolers, where the high schoolers have to fly to San Diego and then down to Ensenada or wherever they go. But the high schoolers, there's an organization called Crossroads based out of Louisville, Kentucky, and that they serve really poor Appalachian towns in eastern Kentucky and elsewhere. And the kids go and they work in helping a family rebuild their house that's been damaged by a flood or something like that. And so it's a little bit more entry level because there's no flight involved. The cost is about half, and it kind of steps them up from the junior high level to the high school level. So that's something that you may consider. Of course, being with Waypoint and all the church plants that we're a part of, I would really recommend you consider doing a church plant mission trip. And what I mean by that is it's a quick 2-day trip that you could take and your kids get to go and worship at a church plant, but on Saturday they can do a service project with that church. And so in the last year, we've planted 6 new churches. One of them is right in the heart of Washington, D.C., and another one is in Frederick, Maryland. Several others are in North Carolina. And so you can take your kids on a 2-3 hour van ride. They serve. stay overnight one night, and then they worship with the church plant and get to come home. And it's a real easy trip to get them exposed to what church planting looks like, a service project. Getting out of town is always fun, and it's not a very costly or difficult thing to do. Let me shift to the second kind of big trip that you could take out of town in this first category, and that's kind of your college days trip, whatever kind of trip that would be, and whether it's at MacU or Johnson or Liberty here more regionally. It could be those kind of trips. When I was growing up, I went to the old regular CIY conferences that was at one of the colleges in the region, and that's still happening today. And so these guys, I know, take their youth groups to events like that. And so, Brandon, if you could tell us kind of what you've done with Summer in the Sun and what that looks like for you, and then Zach can tell us about Mix and Move.
Yeah, we started going to Summer in the Sun, which is held on the campus of Kentucky Christian University. We started going there probably 1999 or 2000. Summer in the Sun has been around for, I'd say, 30 years or more, mostly as a high school conference, but in 99 they did add the middle school conference of it. Benefit of that is it's a week, or not benefit, details of it, it's a week long in the summer. It's held on the campus, like I said, of KCU. And one of the differences between that and CIY is CIY Mix and CIY Move will basically just rent or lease space at a college for events and don't have a true partnership with the college. But Summer in the Sun is sponsored by Kentucky Christian University. They don't really use it as a recruitment tool. They're not trying to recruit, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders to come to school there. But when you're there, because KCU is such a small school, maybe 700 or 800 students during the year, it's a small campus. And so when you're there for a week of middle school Summer in the Sun, you feel like that's all that's on there. Like the whole campus is Summer in the Sun, which is pretty cool. It's nice because it's middle school only. So you're there for a week with your 6th graders, and you don't have 17, 18-year-olds there. You also don't have 10 and 11-year-olds there necessarily. It's just middle schoolers. Very, very well programmed. Starts Sunday afternoon, or really Sunday evening about 7 o'clock, and it ends Friday morning at 11 a.m. Cost-wise, beat it. I think I want to say like $224 or $235 or something like that. It's under $250 for a week. And that includes meals. All the meals are provided in the cafeteria. That includes all the concerts that week. Good speakers, good worship band, very well programmed. And for us, it's nice because we take our high schoolers to CIY on the summers that we don't go to Mexico, if that makes sense. So our middle schoolers get 3 years at Summer in the Sun at KCU. By their 8th grade year, they've really enjoyed it, but they're not going back there for the high school weeks of Summer in the Sun, which they also offer that. But I just felt like if we continue to go to the high school weeks of Summer in the Sun, by the time a kid is 16 or 17 years old, they've been there every summer. They can be kind of fatigued with the same campus, same dorm, same cafeteria. Mm-hmm. So change it up for high school. I think that's what Zach's going to speak to. But I couldn't speak more highly of Summer in the Sun, and they've got room for more students. So if any of y'all out there are looking for something middle school wise during the summer, please let me know. I just see a message here from Aaron Stokes. Let me know something I wasn't aware of. He says that SITS is combining middle school and high school this year. So if that is in fact true, that'll change the dynamics of it a little bit. But anyway.
Yeah. All right, Zach, why don't we switch and talk about Mix and Move with CIY and your experience there? Where do you go, and how do you get the kids there, and what do they do while they're there?
Okay, yeah. CIY is they've been around for over 40 years, and it was an organization that I was familiar with growing up. I never attended as a student. At the church I served in Illinois, we always attended Move. So when we moved to Virginia, it was something that the youth group here had already been doing. So we just continued to do it. And they've traveled from Michigan to Ohio to they've traveled different states. We've stayed pretty much in Cleveland, Tennessee with our high school group since I started here. And then about 4 years ago, and that's with Move. And then about 4 years ago, CIY created Mix. Mix is just for middle schoolers. Starts on Monday. We leave Monday morning, get back on Friday. It's really a cool camp for middle schoolers. They play hard. They have huge games, and they present the gospel in a way that makes sense to middle schoolers. What I've learned over these 4 years, this has been, I've got a group of kids that attended Mix, and it was like when they graduated 8th grade, they didn't want to go to Move because they wanted to go back to Mix. And it was just amazing how when they, as a freshman, when they attended Move, they got it. They understood that Move was different, but it was better. It was definitely more high school focused. What I love about both of these events is we get new students all year long. And sometimes it can be difficult for a new student to feel like they are part of the group, that this is their church, that this is their youth group. And after spending 7 hours in a bus or in a van together and a week at camp, when they come back, it's like parents don't get it. The parents can't wait to see their kids because they've missed these kids all week long. But all the kids want to do is hang out with each other. They want to go over to somebody's house. Or we try to do a big youth event when we get back from Mix and Move, because we know that the kids want to be together. And it's just a way to jump right into getting kids coming back to events. Because we all know kids can go to these large events and then make all these decisions. And a lot of times they can, whatever happens on the way home, it all rubs off and they go back to normal. They go back to what they left, and that hasn't changed, and they jump back into the same routines. So Mix and Move, they do things intentionally to help with that. And what I think my favorite thing with my adults is it sets us up to do ministry. It sets us up to build relationships with our students. They do things in a way where the students lead a lot of the things that you do. And we look like champs. We come away looking like kings and queens because we've allowed our kids to do this. But really, they've worked over, I think they say they worked like 15 months on a single program. So they've put all this planning into it. And it is, every time I take a new adult, they just can't believe how organized it is and how well ran everything is at camp. So we absolutely love it, and our students do too. I think most for us, it's just growing our group together. It's creating a unity that we can't do any other way.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Thanks. That's really good. I want to transition. We are getting a question. I'll try to answer one. Well, the one question that just came up in the queue kind of is where we're headed. Those are big trips where you're traveling halfway across the country or a third of the way across the country to Tennessee or Michigan or wherever. But other opportunities that I would say would be kind of your annual retreats for your youth group. That could be more local. It could be at a camp over a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It could be at a state park that usually have great cabin facilities that are not horribly expensive, but nicer than tents. If you don't want to do tents, I'm too old to do tents. But something that the kids can look forward to. But when they go away, they're just more primed to receive the teaching that you're doing. There's something different about going away. So it may be your annual youth retreat. The other thing that I think is really simple to where you look like a hero would be your concert festivals, your Christian concert festivals in your region. There's several of them. I know the church that we were most recently at always went to King's Fest at King's Dominion every year. It was in July. They take a big group, and like Zach said, it was that opportunity where the new kids that weren't really well connected, you go away for a day, and you pay one fee to get in the park, and there's the concerts that go with it. But then when they come back, they're just tighter. And so that you look like a hero real quick just by renting a van and trying not to lose any kids for the day. So those are some of the trips that you can take, big ones or small ones. You can also, I have seen churches that collaborate and their youth groups kind of go together to make kind of a bigger youth retreat, even though it's not huge. If you've only got 5 or 10 kids in your youth group, you could collaborate with 2 other youth ministers or youth directors in your area and get up to 30 or 40 kids maybe to where you feel like it's a pretty good size retreat. And you also get to, by doing that, you get to kind of delegate and share the workload where you're not having to do everything, but you've got 3 leaders or 4 that you can share the work with. And if you go to a church camp in non-camp season, you can get a Friday, Saturday, Sunday retreat, and you can pull off something fairly good, fairly inexpensively, and a lot of fun for the kids. Let's switch gears now. We're about halfway through, and switch gears to the things that you can do locally in your town or actually in your church that might be new to you. Hopefully you're doing some of the things that we've already mentioned, but if not, I want to really encourage you to do any of those that we've already said, because they're huge for your kids. But some of the things that you can do locally that are good for your faith development of your kids. You can do breakfast Bible studies. Brandon, I don't know if you can tell us about what you do there, but I know many groups that have done this or are currently doing this in their church. So I'm curious what you do.
Yeah, we tried for years, and we still do it actually, to do discipleship groups. We do them in the evenings, we do them at leaders' homes, we do them at church. But in our youth group, at least, there's a good number of kids, a majority of kids, who are involved in just extracurricular stuff, whether it's like academic teams or jobs, sports, and meeting every Tuesday night or meeting every Wednesday night or whatever. We seem to miss out on some of the kids we really want to be there. So while we still offer those, the past couple of years, we've also offered some in the morning before school at Chick-fil-A here in Christiansburg. And you don't have to do much to sell Chick-fil-A to kids. Most kids do that. And so we've moved our high school guys discipleship group to Chick-fil-A in the mornings before school. Our school starts here at 7:55, and it's only about a mile from Chick-fil-A to the high school. And so we'll meet there at 7. We only do our discipleship groups in the spring. And I know some of y'all do them year-round, and that's great, y'all who can do it. But we only do it in the spring, and we do it before school, and it seems to work really well. It'd be a little bit tougher if it's further away, from the school, and if you got to start rides and stuff like that. But for us, it seems to work well.
All right. And I've known other churches, good churches, that do a similar thing, whether it's at Chick-fil-A. I know one church that did it at Shoney's because it was right next to the school, wherever that is. That's really good to have that consistency. Another thing that we've got on our list here would be other similar events, but united where you're not having to pull it off all by yourself, but you're partnering with other Christian organizations that are putting on events, like whether it's Fellowship of Christian Athletes or Young Life. And so, Zach, I don't know if you can describe for us any of those kind of events that you've worked with another organization, so you're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, so this is also something that was already happening whenever I came on here. We were part of a united group of youth pastors where there's probably 5 youth pastors in the area that get together once a month, and we just talk and pray with each other and see what's going on in our churches. But we've tried to plan events once a quarter to just get all of our youth groups together, and that usually consists of we invite probably 20 youth groups to come and at whatever church is going and worship together. We hang out on it's actually just coming up in a couple weeks. We talked with we are working to unify Young Life, FCA, and the church. So this coming up in a couple weeks, we have one big united event where our Young Life groups, our FCA groups, and our church youth groups are all going to join together at one church and just have a good time. It's going to be fun. I think the FCA guys plan on wearing a Young Life shirt. The Young Life guys plan on wearing an FCA shirt, just to show them that we're not trying to compete. We're not trying to take kids away from each other's events. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Our kids always look forward to seeing the kids from school. I think that's the biggest thing is just getting them together in their schools and letting them see, oh, wow, I didn't know you went to church, which is not always a compliment. But it's good to get them together and try to build relationships. It's usually a one-night event, but it's also good to have those relationships with the other youth pastors.
All right. And Zach, I want to check, you will be wearing a shirt that night. Is that right?
I will wear a shirt that night.
All right, good. I just checking. But I think that's great where you can kind of partner together, which shows unity, but also helps share the load for putting on a night where it's not all on you. I think that's pretty key. Another thing that you can happen with your school. There you said all these kids are all in all these different programs, but then they meet together and they realize they're at school. But there's things that you can do with your school as well. A lot of churches do some kind of prom alternative or pre or post prom activity, and I've seen that happen with many churches. And so, Brandon, I know that you guys do something like that. What do you do around prom season there at in Christiansburg?
Yeah, I think you're probably giving us a little too much credit on that. We've done two different things. 2 years ago, my wife and I hosted, and this was kind of something that I'd say we backed into more than we deliberately did it. We hosted dinner at our house before prom for any of our students who were going. Ended up having maybe 15 or so couples at our house, which we really, like I said, weren't expecting. Ended up happening. But this past year, we intentionally did an after prom breakfast at our church. And it wasn't like during the night after prom party, but prom was on Saturday night, so it was Sunday morning at 6 o'clock. We did breakfast at our church. Our church is a new building. We built it about a year and a half ago, so it's kind of nice inside, new cafe and all that stuff. We wouldn't have done it at our old church building. It just wouldn't have felt nice. But anyway, so we did a breakfast. We cooked a really nice breakfast. We gave out tickets, which were free to all of our students, and they had the church logo and all this on it, and they had my number. And this was open to anybody, whether they went to our church or no church or whatever. All they had to do was call or text me an RSVP. And we did breakfast at 6 in the morning, and we gave the hook for it was we gave away, or the hook besides free breakfast was we gave away a $100 Chick-fil-A gift card at the breakfast. So Chick-fil-A running theme in our youth ministry here, as you can tell. So we gave that away, and that was pretty cool. This was just an incentive for kids to kind of keep their nose clean on prom night, because they were going to be coming to our church to eat breakfast at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it was fun. We're not going to do it again this year. It's not going to be a yearly thing, but it was fun, and we'll probably do it again sometime. But I'm sure there are, out of the 50 people out there, some of y'all could have done it as well or better than we did it.
All right. I know that you can do outreach events with your school or other kind of outreach events. I know one of our church plants, their youth group has adopted a local elementary school that they serve rather than the church at large, and the youth group does regular outreach events. One of them would include a Christmas craft night that the kids come on a Sunday night to the elementary school cafeteria, and then they do crafts from Oriental Trading, where the youth group does that, but the parents of the school can drop the kids off and go shop for the kids for Christmas while the kids have something to do. They're the crafts they're making for grandma and grandpa or whatever that they can make. And it's a great connection for the school and the youth group and the kids. It works out really well. But there's a lot of other kind of rescue mission service projects that you can do, or other things in your town that get your kids outside of your building and see that their faith isn't compartmentalized into youth group hour, but it's something that they're actively doing. I think that's a big deal. Let's switch right now to things that you might do actually at your building, locally speaking. I know you can do big events or small events. We'll talk about a couple, three things here. Back when I was in youth ministry or younger, it was always lock-ins. I think that would have a negative connotation in this era, that you're locking the kids in. But some of those, late at night or stay through the night kind of events that you could do. And so, Brandon, what do you call yours, and what do you do at your event like that at Belmont?
Yeah, and we went through the same cycle here. We definitely went through the days of lock-ins, and some of y'all still do it, and that's great. To those of y'all who do, you'll certainly get into heaven easier than I will because you're doing lock-ins. But we transitioned several years ago to what I call Red Eye Night, and we do it once every 3 years, and it's only for 7th through 9th graders. We do it in September, and the kids, we do stay up all night. We're not at the building. It starts at 8 p.m. We meet at the church at 8 p.m., and we're back here at 8 a.m. And we have all of our youth sponsors. That's what we call the adults who volunteer with me. We call them youth sponsors. We have all of our youth sponsors here as drivers, and also to hang out with the kids that night. But we go to probably about 5 or 6 different places around the New River Valley throughout the night. We start off at a pool. So like I said, we do this in early September, so it's still warm enough. We start off at a pool that's closed. So they open up especially for us. Then we rent out a movie theater and watch a movie. Then we go to a putt-putt place. They open up for us at like 2:30 in the morning. Then we go to an arcade that opens up for us. And then this past year we went to, it's a fitness facility that just recently added a bunch of what they call like American Ninja Warrior type obstacles that they can do classes and after school stuff for kids. So we finished there at like 5 in the morning, and then we went to, you guessed it, Chick-fil-A for breakfast at 7 in the morning, and then we were done at 8. One of the reasons or a couple reasons we only do it every 3 years. One, there's only so many places we can go. So I only do it every 3 years because I don't want a kid to be able to go twice. Because if they can go twice, the second time they're like, oh, I know what's next. We're going to the putt-putt place next. I know already. And I hate that. I hate it when kids know what's coming up. And the other thing is it helps build some good word of mouth publicity for it. Is the kids start talking. The kids who have been before will say, oh, you've got to go because you only get to go once. And, man, I'm so glad I got to go. And so and then the third reason is it's pretty tough to get a putt-putt place to open up at 2 in the morning. So I know the guy, and he can do me a favor once every 3 years, but not every year. So every 3 years is just about right for it.
All right. That's a great idea. And for some people that have chimed in, their youth groups might not be as large, but this is something that, again, you could collaborate in a united effort with other people in your area and share the responsibility and make it a big night for everybody. I think that would be really good.
Yep, and there's churches in this area who do that. Some of the, I think Jason Summey's on here. There's 3 or 4 Roanoke churches who have collaborated to do something like that. Great idea, money-wise and all that. Yep.
That's right. I've seen one church do a similar night, and they went rock climbing late at night, in the middle of the night, and other things like that. It's a great idea. Zach, why don't you tell us about what you do there at Bridge with your preview nights for your rising middle school and high school kids, and how that works for you and what you do there?
Yeah, this is very simple and nothing spectacular. But what we do is at the probably the weekend before Mother's Day, we invite our rising fifth graders. I send out a postcard because they're not getting text messages or emails, so it makes them feel special. I can send out a postcard with their name on it, inviting them to come to youth group, and it's something they've been excited about, something they've heard about. And they're able to come and hang out. I invite them and the parents to come about an hour early, and we sit down and talk about youth ministry, just kind of give them the overview of our goals and our mission, especially for the kids and what we'd like to see and in them, and what they're going to get out of the next few years. So we get to talk to them, and they get to experience youth group, and then typically in the past we've kind of let them come along over the summer. We're not doing that anymore with the size of the groups last year. Oh my gosh, this was just crazy. I gave my administrative assistant, I gave her 30 postcards to stamp names on, and she texted me while I was at lunch, and she said, I need 12 more. No, I need 20 more. And I was like, wait a minute, there can't be. She said, yeah, there's 52 rising fifth graders. I started sweating. That's a lot of fifth graders. So we got them all here, and we had a blast. But so this year we're gonna it just lets them look forward to summer, and when fall comes, they're ready for it. They're excited about it. It's good to have that fresh feel with that group. Sometimes the 8th graders are a little overwhelmed by a bunch of 5th graders, but it's good for them. The same thing with the rising 9th graders. We invite them to come check out our high school group, and it's just as exciting for them. These are the kids that they hung out with when they were 6th graders, and they can't wait. It's just fun. It's a fun night for them. It's something that they get to look forward to.
All right, that's great. I'm looking at our list. We got a lot of things that we could do. Don't forget to hit your Q&A if you got any questions for these guys about these topics. I know it really wasn't a question, but related to the prom night is one church from someone online here did pre-prom pictures as at the church, which I think is a great idea. Everybody wants good pictures for prom night, and so if you provide that, they can stop by, get the pictures on their way. And so doing something.
I'm stealing that idea. Whoever said that.
Yeah, I think that's great. So so that's good. Let's see. I know of a youth group that does stuff in their building. They had gate. Yes, sir.
Hey, can I jump in there real quick?
Yep.
Yeah, just kind of talking through that. Whoever said that on the prom thing, you know, thinking out loud, we've got a lady here in our church who does photography like as her side business, you know, and she's done things for youth group before, and I'm just thinking, man, what if we semi-promoted that hey, her name is Debbie, you know, that photos by Debbie or whatever will be available at our church. Like I said, our new building is kind of nice. If we did that and just let parents and teenagers know, come by here, you free, and then you know, we'll send you the link where you can get them taken out. And you know, that's just a way to get people on your property. So whoever, man, that's a great idea. I'm going to take that and run with it. And I think if you have a nice building or a nice outside setting, I mean, kids and parents go crazy for prom nowadays. They go crazy. It's like getting married. So that's an easy way to get people on your property and to get something in their hand. That's a great idea.
All right. And Ruth Smith chimed back in, Claypool Hill Church of Christ. So we'll have to get you as a panelist at our next webinar, Ruth, to join in there. Well, I want to wrap up. We try and keep this to 55 minutes or less is the promise for all of our webinars. We're really glad that we've had so many participants on our webinar today. There's a lot of events that you can have, and the one thing that I would encourage you to do, as you've heard several times throughout this webinar, is to find yourself some kind of cohort or group of people that you're collaborating with. Because I remember from youth ministry and then overseeing lots of youth ministers as a senior minister that, you know, your creativity is limited by the number of people in the room. And so if you can get 3 or 4 or 5 people thinking about events, and then all of a sudden it just takes it to a whole nother level. And so so one thing that I want to tell you about, let me go to my share screen here. This is let's see, Waypoint has a thing that we call fusion groups, which are peer learning groups, peer groups for ministers in the region. We've got about 40 of them. And we have a couple that are for youth in particular, for youth leaders in particular, but they're peer groups. They're only 4, 5, 6 people in a group. They get together on a regular basis and talk about how can we be better ministers together? How can we grow and learn, collaborate? How can we talk about the rigors of ministry and the challenges and celebrate the wins? But you've got that a posse of people that you're working with. And so I've got the third poll that I've created for this event that I would be really curious. You might already be in one. I know that we've got a couple existing that are for youth leaders in particular, but we have a guy on staff that you may know, Neil Wheeler, that is our Director of Leader Care. And Neil oversees all of our fusion groups. And so I want to ask this question: would you be interested in potentially joining a fusion group specifically for youth leaders? If we could get people within your region that would do that. And we have guys that'll drive an hour or even 2 hours. We found that they'll drive 2 hours to a good group, and they won't drive across town for a group that's no value to them. And so trying to find 4 or 5 people that really fit with you in ministry, would you be willing to at least get a contact from Neil about what that would look like? And we see if we can start 2 or 3 more groups where a lot of the topics that we've talked about today, you could really flesh out with colleagues to make it happen. And I think that would be critical. So you're answering that poll, and we'll get the results for that, and I'll pass them along to Neil at Waypoint, who will connect with you about that. We want to thank you for being a part of this webinar, and I don't know if you've been part of one of them before, but we have them every month, and you can watch. You'll get emails about the next one. The next one that we've got coming up, I've got a slide for here, is coming up in about about 4 weeks on January 3rd, and it's about soul care, about how do pastors take care of themselves. And so we're inviting you, but you'll get a follow-up email tomorrow with some links to these guys' emails and some of the things that we referred to But in there, there'll also be a link to that event as well. And so we would invite you to come to it. But also, if you would forward that to any minister, not only on your staff at your church, but minister friends that you have that need to learn how to take care of their souls so that they're best equipped to pastor, that you can only minister from a deep well. And if the well is dry, you're in trouble. And so that's the next one that we have. And then I want to say, finally, I'm going to close this out here. The final thing I want to say is I want to thank you for being part of this webinar. They are free that we provide because of our partnership with Mid-Atlantic Christian University, our sponsor. But the only thing that you're charged with is I want to invite you to consider joining a new platform that we have called iplantchurches.com. iPlant Churches is a forum of people that will sign up to give as little as $5 a month recurring to help Waypoint plant more churches to reach more people all over the region. And so we've got a little website that'll be in your link tomorrow, iplantchurches.com. It's that simple. You click a button for $5 or $10 or how much you want to give and enter your information and you're done. We just launched this, a soft launch last month, and we've had 40 people sign up already. Our goal is to have 400 people sign up over this next year. And so we'd invite you to help us get to that goal by signing up to give $5 a month. And so hopefully you'll do that. You'll see the link for that tomorrow, but you could go to it right now. It's www.iplantchurches.com. Well, thanks for your time today. Hope you enjoy your afternoon. For those of you who have to dig out from the blizzard that you're in, sorry about that. And but we hope that the weather will be a whole lot better on January 30th for our next webinar. But thanks for being a part of this. And I want to thank personally the two guys, Zach and Brandon, who were our panelists today, to provide a lot of wisdom and experience they've got as veterans in the field. And hopefully you'll connect with them if you've got more questions after today. Their emails will be in the link tomorrow. Have a great day and enjoy your afternoon.